What's up, guys? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the hashtag Black Professionals Project. My name is Kenton Hipsher. I am the CEO and founder of the nonprofit organization where our mission is to educate and inspire Black and Brown youth through the stories of Black and Brown professionals. And today we have with us
the Brooks brothers.
Hey, the Brooks brothers. Please introduce yourselves individually.
Yeah, I'll let you go first. Sure. He was born first, so I get to introduce myself first. I'm Malcolm, and I'm Hannibal, and we're both insight associates at Olson Zaltman, which is a market research company.
Awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in and joining us today. I really appreciate it. Those of you watching, you may have seen them on, a few other notable television shows as the Double Talk Twins, where they break down a lot of great information in science for you guys in a very digestible manner. So I highly suggest that you guys go check them out. What's the that they can follow you guys or look you guys up at?
Yeah, so they can search Double Talk on YouTube and pull it up. You have a couple of episodes out now. The first one is 6 Ways Heat Affects Our Psychology.
Hi, I'm Hannibal Brooks.
And I'm Malcolm Brooks.
But you can call us the Brooks brothers.
Not the suit ones.
We've shared many adventures over the years. Getting our food science degrees, interning in DC, taking on business school, chasing $1 million on TV. You get the idea.
It works, boys, it works!
But this is the coolest one yet.
I need to know everything. Who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but I like it's new what you're telling me.
Welcome to Double Talk, the show where we explore consumer psychology, behavioral economics, and neuroscience to find ideas that deserve a second look.
And then our next episode is about mascots. So we can add a link in the video description or something later if you want. Yeah,
Certainly.
Another TV appearance has been on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but sadly that one is not serialized.
I have a very interesting relationship with mascots because I'm a big fan. I like going to sporting events just for the mascots, but my girlfriend, on the other hand, is absolutely terrified of them. So there's not going to be any game proposals or anything like that where the mascot comes out with popcorn and everything. That's not going to happen because she would probably just curl up in a ball and cry.
Well, that's often how the best and worst proposals end.
True. Great. So share with everybody how old you guys are. You don't have to give a specific age, but an age group if you're. So just kind of orient everybody where you are in your career.
Yeah. So you're. I'm okay saying it. We're 24, like Jack Bauer. So that's our current range.
Awesome. Yeah. So 24 years of age, which means you're in the Kobe year. Congratulations on that. How's your year been for you so far with everything going on? I know it's been kind of crazy. Have you guys been thriving in the pandemic, or has the pandemic been thriving on you?
Well, the pandemic is kind of like a tsunami wave. So obviously there have been some ups and downs, but I think we're at the point now where as an industry, as a company, we're kind of starting to surf. So because of how much uncertainty there is, a lot of businesses we haven't been in contact with before or old clients are coming back to us with questions, and people have a lot more time at home, and our job is really all about getting to know people. Right. So with more people at home, they're more willing and available for research so that we can either travel there in person or conduct Zoom interviews and really get in-depth conversation, hear how they're dealing with these stresses and moments in life. And our company actually delivered a series of webinars and research that focused on how people's attitudes and mindsets have changed in relation to this current crisis, how that affected their buying behaviors. And we looked at teens, millennials, and then baby boomers, and the reactions were pretty different.
Gotcha. So what would my reaction be?
Well, I think this is a great example of it. The millennial group was, while they view the situation seriously, they actually took the most time to reconnect with their passions and hobbies and branching out into new kind of solo production. So the kind of work you're doing now, reaching out to the community, producing something original, It's pretty commonly shared by this generation. And if you look a step lower, you'll see Gen Z, their metaphor is almost like an uncertain journey, because it's like graduating college, moving through high school. There's like all this uncertainty about what happens next. Whereas, and that is also true across everyone. It's just, how long do we think the situation is going to play out?
Interesting. I think for me, a lot of people in our age group, the 24 to 27 years old, they are creating a lot of content. So that's cool that, the data is reflective of my experiences. So I think this is a perfect segue just for you to give people, a general overview of what exactly it is you both do.
Well, I'll let this guy give the basic version, kind of the day in the life, because I actually joined the company a little bit after him. So I've been here at the end of this year, it'll be like a year and a half. He's been in for a little over 2 years. So by the end, it'll be about 2.5. Yeah. So at Olson's Altman, we're a market research company that does what's called metaphorical market research. So basically we set up and have discussions with consumers of a product, or maybe it's just a particular age group segment, whatever it is. And we have a deep conversation where we understand their unconscious thoughts and feelings and how that affects their attitudes about a brand, a product, politics, whatever it is, at a deeper unconscious level. So for instance, let's say you're the manufacturer of you make cardboard boxes or something, or, let's say it's greeting cards. So what our company would do is we identify either, your primary group that is buying your greeting cards, and we have this deep psychological, almost therapy conversation with them to understand why they're buying it, what elements appeal, and how we can change that to reach a broader audience. Or we talk to people who rarely buy your products, and we understand what it is that they're buying, what their deep metaphorical frames are about your product, and sort of how to leverage those to help you grow.
Cool. I was not aware of this growing up, like this field growing up at all. So I was always interested in asking a lot of questions and trying to find data to match my predictions that I would have about life. But it's cool to see that you guys kind of do that in a day-to-day in a professional setting. So how did you get prepared for such a role? Did you have an extensive amount of education, or what's your sort of academic track been like to this point?
Yeah, I'd say since we know you a little bit from before this, kind of like your journey, we started in a STEM type field. So both of us have undergraduate degrees in food science and technology. So there we, for viewers who don't know, the three of us attended a really wonderful summer research program at Cornell that was very helpful for developing those skills. But without spending too much time in that, I'll say it was really great for forming an appreciation of the scientific method, building investigative frameworks, and developing the kind of research discipline that's really helpful in our job today, because it is all about research. But of course, during that time, and this is something that I definitely would say to any young person who's entering into the professional realm, internships are great because you get that experience of what the job is like and get to see how you can apply your skills in new ways. So one I think that's really helpful is a summer we spent in DC working on food and nutrition policy. I was in the Office of Congressional Relations at the USDA. Yeah, and I think that to Malcolm's point about internships, the most important thing about them is you get to apply your skills in a real world setting and also learn what you do and don't like doing. Because in the end, you don't want to enter and be like, whoa, it's like buying a product before you do the free trial, you play the game demo. So do as much as possible. So post that degree, actually, that's what led to a big pivot. I realized, I like being able to interact with people and to apply creative solutions. And I was watching the show House of Lies, and that got me interested, even though it takes a slightly dim view, it's what got me interested in consulting. So then I realized at the end of that graduation, it'd be a good time to reinvent, develop some new business skills, and see what applications are out there for things like strategy and psychology, things I've always been interested in, but didn't necessarily get the full experience of just in food science. So after that, we both went to, again, we applied to a few places, got into a few of the same places, but we went to the University of Virginia's MS in Commerce program. So it's a 1 year.
Yeah, VA, let's go.
So in addition to being, Go Who's basketball champions, this program is like 1 year. It's in MS and commerce programs. I'll tell you, they're becoming more popular around the country, but it's basically a 1 year super crash course in business that equips you to succeed in a variety of areas. So after doing that, it led us to where we currently are.
That's awesome. I know for a lot of kids, they're really going to appreciate, hearing the different steps that you've taken along your journey and how the logic behind, why you made the decision you made. Because for me, at least, trying to figure out exactly what it is I wanted to do was a very difficult process. And I think it kind of comes in a variety of steps, but the core steps in there, I feel like are, one, find something that you're good at. Two, find something that makes money, like how to make money doing said thing. And three, I think ultimately just figuring out, how you can scale yourself in that opportunity. You don't want your...
I want to toss you a quick question there. I'm going to toss that quick response to one of those things. A cool part about the find out what you're good at idea is this. I think one of the things is you might say, oh, I don't know if I'm good at math. I don't know if I'm good at science, or I'm good at writing. One of the things that was most helpful for me was taking the Myers-Briggs personality test, because and I know there's a whole range of tests and things that can evaluate what your working style is, but taking that made me realize, I felt like I wasn't good at science because I wasn't meticulous, but I like solving problems. I saw it like a debate or turned it into a game. And essentially, if you know yourself and your psychology, you can find ways to become good at anything. You just have to find a way to make that work style work for you.
That's a great point. I really appreciate you sharing that, just because, like you mentioned, it's hard to know what is good, what's the standard, what's the benchmark. If you want to classify yourself as good at computer science, do you compare yourself to Bill Gates? Do you compare yourself to a lot of these CEOs and people who are out in the forefront of the community, or do you compare yourself to some basic standard metrics like you mentioned, like the test? So it's cool to have those resources available to you. And actually, now that you mention it, I think it'll be a good idea for me to link it. So I'll actually link it in the description, so you guys can just one click go to that test and then figure out, what you're good at in life and what your personality traits fit better. And just know that test has its own limitations. So there may be some things that you're interested in that don't show up necessarily on the test, and that don't necessarily apply to what you have a strong passion for. But as long as you have that passion, then follow it, and you'll figure out a way to make money from it. And if you don't, then you'll learn to pivot and find something else. But with that being said, talk to me a little bit about how you guys grew up and where you guys are from. What's your ethnicity? This is #Black Professionals. So we are celebrating and uplifting, Black and brown professionals. So share with us a little bit about that.
Yes. So we are from Pensacola, Florida, which if you're not from Florida, you're looking at a map of Florida. It's right on the panhandle, so kind of the tip. And I'd say culturally and geographically, a lot of people refer to it as Southern Alabama. So it has a rural feel, except that's rural feel. It's mediated a little bit by the fact that it's right by the beach. So Pensacola is known for its beaches. It's also the cradle of naval aviation. So the Blue Angels, the Naval Aviation Group, are based there. They sort of travel the country, stunt shows, that sort of thing. We grew up in Pensacola. We were born in Tampa, actually. Lived in Atlanta for 5 years, moved back to Florida. We've been there ever since. So I'd say Atlanta is definitely because of all the culture that's there. That's where our dad's side of the family is from too. It was a great immersion in Black culture, so we were steeped in it and had an appreciation for it before we moved to Florida, which I'd say there was a little bit more of a divide, but still I feel like we had a relatively positive experience. Granted, there's some things. I mean, if you're Confederate flags are a hot topic now. There are definitely lots of those, but in some places, but on the whole, great time there. So we decided we didn't have enough in the South yet. So for college, we went to Mississippi State, and before going to UVA. So we've been slowly working our way, you could argue, northward geographically. But yeah, so I guess any more about growing up? We spent some time at our school's academic teams in some various forms because we always love fun facts and storytelling. We sort of did some creative freestyle, sort of rapping, a little bit of writing during that time. And and we are on the debate team too. So lots of those sort of question, answer, exploring what's going on in life. We were also in math club for a little bit, but by force, we were not great.
Hey, that's okay. You know, a lot of people have their own preconceived notions about what exactly the math team or the debate team does and who is a part of the math team and the debate team. And I think this is a good example to show you guys that, you know, everybody has a little bit of interest in question and answer in some format. And if that makes you a quote unquote nerd, then that makes you a nerd. But you can still be very successful if you are a part of that team. You can still be a very cool group of guys if you are a part of that team. So don't let that scare you away from joining your local debate team or math team.
That's right.
Certainly. So moving forward here, we already talked a little bit about, you know, how you guys got started, what your journey has been. But one question I always like to ask people is, in addition to the great things, you know, what are 2 or 3 obstacles that you guys have faced in your career to this point? Because it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, I have a good example of that. Coming out of the master's program, I'll say for anyone who's job hunting right now, getting the first job is probably always the most difficult part of the process. You can send out, unfortunately, it's not like a common application for colleges. So you can send out dozens. I probably sent out, at least 50 different job applications. And then you go through these rounds of interviews. So there's a few close calls. Actually, part of the reason we're in Pittsburgh now, I had it. I was there. I came up for a job in New York that I thought was basically a lock. And then the company fell apart. So I stayed with Hannibal here with a suit that I had for my interview and one other pair of clothes. And then we just cycled through his stuff. So I'm like, I'm just going to stay here. I'm not going back home. I'm going to stay here until I get a job. So just the initial struggle of getting all those applications out and constantly staying optimistic in spite of, hearing nothing or just make it to the final round. Probably one of my biggest challenges. Yeah, and I would say another big challenge, which you'll face in any field, is the specialization. Every field wants someone who has a lot of experience in their given industry. So especially us pivoting from science to business, there's this idea of, okay, well, have you proven you're good at this thing yet? Have you proven you're good at this thing yet? And you're almost like, this is entry level. This is where I prove I'm good. This is the starting point. Yes, I can highlight everything I've done. So I would say, don't give up there for everyone listening. There are very strong ways. There are core skills from any field that are valuable and can be transferred to any other field. You just have to find a strong way to highlight that in your resume, in your interviews, in your cover letters. And we had a professor at UVA who laid out this we had to run through these 3-minute versions of your pivot story and get really good at telling that. Because if you can tell it and know it in your heart, it comes through in everything you write and do. That can really help you land that first opportunity.
That's great advice, guys. I know for me, I also have the same experience as someone who started in science and then transitioned into business. Because now I work in life science sales, and it's been quite the struggle to, demonstrate to people that I can provide value without having the hardcore technical sales experience. But what you have to do is just reorient, the skills and experiences that you have to be appealing to a potential employer and show the value that you still can bring. And be honest. And by doing so, I feel like you can still get that first job, but you really do have to work on selling yourself. It's extremely challenging, but it's also something that you have to do in every area of your life. So you might as well start now.
The secret is every person is a salesman or saleswoman. Every person is in sales once. When you sell yourself to get that job. Now, the key thing is, again, as much as you can, get exposure to whatever that work is you're going to be doing as early as possible. So that way you know what you're heading into. But yeah, you want to make sure you sell yourself. Because if you have that self-confidence and you believe in yourself, you can do it. And don't let the product expire, right? I think Eminem in Lose Yourself says, they don't want it, just call the product, right? So constantly, be making connections, learning, anything to keep your skills fresh. Yeah, in the end, tapping your network, I want to throw this out here too, and then we'll move on to the next question. But tapping your network is key. I think it's like between 40 and 60% of jobs are never listed. So it all comes from connection. So it's key to connect with as many people as you can, not necessarily seeking a job, but seeking to learn from them, their experience, grow from it. And then ultimately that will help build a relationship that can potentially help your career later on.
Certainly. I agree with that 1,000%. And soon I will be releasing my secret sauce, my guide to networking. So you guys will have access to that and hopefully learn some useful tips and tricks on how to network with people if that's something you're not very strong at. I know for all three of us, we're very social individuals. So speaking to people is not always a difficult thing for us, but like anybody else, we're human and it's not comfortable at all times. So you have to break yourself out of that shell and make sure that you're comfortable having a conversation with somebody in a professional manner at least. And then from there, your social skills will grow. So you can look forward to Kenton's secret sauce on networking in the future.
I remember that summer at Cornell, the food science, you were working on another secret sauce there, right? I'm guessing the strawberries in a way.
It was a secret sauce that's still going to remain secret, guys. Don't put that out there, all right? Don't put that out there right now. We're waiting on patents. We're waiting on approvals. I'm waiting on this royalty check to come in. So I need you guys to keep that on the down low.
You got it.
Great. So moving forward here, you talked about some obstacles, but that's not the only part of your job, right? So what are some of the things that really gets you excited about your career? What makes you wake up in the morning and go say, I'm going to go do market research? Like, what gets you to do that?
Yeah, so I think one of the things I love the most about it is not only are you gaining new knowledge about the way the world works, and I feel like I've always been a curious person, so seeing new insights uncovered is a lot of fun. But also in creating the decks and communicating information to clients, one of the things that stunned me the most in business school when we were learning about this is people don't want to read through tons of data and then just and try and piece together what it means. They want a story. A story is the best way to communicate. So every day I come in and I'm essentially writing a story. And in our case, it's literally like a story with some facts and quotes and little story elements built in. But I love storytelling, and that's really what it's all about. Finding the truth and telling that story in a way that will help businesses make money. And for me, a lot of it was, we both really enjoy the show Mad Men. Man, if only advertising was still like this instead of, just having to be a graphic artist, because I'd love to, work on some products that people interact with every day. And so far, just this year, I can't talk about this specific client, but I'll say at our company, we've done something similar. So we've had a huge study about the secret reason why do people like Cheetos. And there's this guilty pleasure that comes from having this orange dust on your fingers that feels rebellious. And so they were spending all this time trying to figure out how do we make this dust less sticky, but it turns out people actually love that. So insights like that, we did a deep dive into what kind of shows people love to watch for a car company actually. So like what even is the connection? But getting to, experiment with like streaming media, food and beverages, and test advertisements and stuff. It's really cool to see something you've worked on out in the wild, like between Hulu ads. And there's also this cool sense of, I love about market research. It's very consulting type work. And what appealed to me about that consulting idea, and obviously people have different orientations when it comes to work culture, but I'm like, okay, I really love this product. I'm really learning about, let's say, insurance. We work on it, we find out how people think about it, we deliver those insights. And then my next project's unpacking how do we deal with financial insecurity, or what makes a certain type of cookie something people love, or telling people more about air travel and how to make that experience the best. So it's almost every week or so, you're coming into something totally different. And that's another thing I love about the job.
Yeah, that variety is key for me, especially, as somebody in sales, I would say that's probably one of the biggest selling points is every person is different. Every person I talk to has a different story. They have a different need. And even though you may be selling the same product, you're interacting with different people every day, and you get that chance to kind of mix up the monotony that can be life sometimes. So great insights as per usual. And I think one thing I was curious about, especially for your guys' career, is what's one misconception that people have about market research? Are you just like digging in the data all the time? Like, the NCIS, like numbers flashing on the screen sort of thing. Like, what do you guys do?
We're looking for killers all day. Actually, I like the NCIS examples. They'd say probably the biggest misperception is that we're just like advertising's less sexy cousin, right? All behind us, right? This is covered in ads. And specifically in our job, a lot of it is about images and their metaphorical meaning. So you can almost imagine, like, we're those police detectives. Data, analyzing numerical data is one part of our job, but so is just looking at a bunch of pictures and figuring out, all right, what is the common thread here? Everybody to describe the feeling of eating this kind of candy has little kids like jumping in the air or floating. What does that symbolize to them unconsciously? Is it about lightness? Is it about freedom? I mean, if you look, you can see there's a picture of a dog in the background there. There's a huge difference between ads where the character is making eye contact with you versus looking away. So if they're looking at you, it's about that sense of connection, building trust. If they're looking away, often it's building focus on the product and the product's benefits. So is it offering strength? Is it offering some kind of knowledge or resource? Is it making them feel in control of a chaotic life? We're really, it's not, as Malcolm was saying, there's this idea we're just looking at the data, but again, we're really using it to get to that story. So it can be a lot of fun.
That's cool because you guys are taking data and connecting it to the biology. You guys are putting data to the people and then vice versa. So you can try to figure out how these trends are building and also track how these trends are forming and try to formulate, the best possible story for a client potentially. That's really, really cool. And I think something like that is going to be very interesting for a lot of people because even for me in graphic designing, stuff for, this channel or some of the other social media things that I work on, the story behind the choices is always the most interesting part for me. It's not putting out the product. It's like, why am I choosing to use red text instead of blue text? Why am I choosing to do, depth of field versus shallow field? Like, what are the choices here and why am I doing this? And I really think you guys are answering those whys on a daily basis. And that's what makes the advertising that we see today and the marketing strategies that we see today so interesting. So, thank you guys for being a part of that.
Of course. Well, hey, the best part is to your earlier part about careers, we get paid to do it too, which is awesome. I would do this for free, except it wouldn't pay my bills.
Yeah, so that's a good point. What makes you a professional then at this? Because a lot of people may do this in their free time, but what separates you from those people?
Well, we have official titles, but we do undergo fairly intense training at the start of this job, and a lot of the skills that come to bear. I mean, obviously, people can put, I'm proficient in Microsoft skills, but definitely having a good handle on Excel, having a deep understanding of some of the psychological underpinnings, mechanisms, standards for managing data. And there's also this, you need to have a sense of, and at a less hard skill level, you need to have a patience, focus,
curiosity, and then kind of that sort of creativity over time. And I think for us, I mean, I was in undergrad working on a project where I was helping raise 2,000 chickens, meticulously documenting their condition, working on a probiotic substitute for antibiotics in the industry. So got a lot of hands-on experience with managing detailed results over time and then boiling down to those concrete conclusions. So even though I'm not working with something living, which is great because there's far more frequent check-ins, having the ability to understand that data and what's happening at a strategic level and the tactical is key to this work.
I would say, to add to that point, the other thing that you guys have to have is a great personality, and that's what you guys have. You guys stand out, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to have you guys on the platform, is because, you know, you're, out of all the people that I know, you guys are probably, you know, some of the smartest individuals, but also some of the most comical that I know. And it's always a joy having you guys on, and I appreciate you guys doing this today here. Just to close, you know, any last thoughts or advice that you have for young professionals or just youth who are looking into, you know, market research, or, you know, maybe people who are professionals now thinking about making a career change?
I would say the most important thing to do before you make any kind of big transition is learn what you can, right? There's a lot of great, really accessible resources. Like, in addition to our show Double Talk, one thing I'd recommend is there's a podcast called Under the Influence that's from the Canadian Broadcasting Service that's really fun and offers some cool insights into the world of advertising and consumer research. And we have a couple of friends now in the community who have some great podcasts that are also worth listening to.
I think one of the best things you can do is, as Malcolm said, learn and think about those experiences, and also, again, talk to someone who doesn't. If you can, talk to someone who's in the field, because you'll learn so much from it. A lot of people get messages that are about some kind of business transaction or something, but you'd be surprised by how willing people are to talk if you just reach out and say, hey, I saw what you do. It seems interesting. Can you just tell me some more about it? Because I'm interested in learning more about this field. Then you'll get kind of like what you're doing with this show, which is great. People learn about the day-to-day, the challenges, the goals, you know, not just what's listed on the job description or in a broad survey of the industry, but, you know, what a day in the life is like. And that's how you can decide if it's something you want to do or not. So be Indiana Jones, be curious, go out and explore, and then, you know,
don't get killed. Honestly.
Yeah, don't get killed.
Definitely don't die. You know, don't come in full blazing, asking people, you know, I'm going to buy you coffee and you're going to give me your information, because that's not going to work. But the subtle approach, you know, but direct in your questioning, I think, is always good. So thank you guys for sharing that information, and thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate you both having a comical episode, if any. And yeah, with that, I'll close out. So this has been the #Black Professionals Project with the Double Talk Twins. He is Hannibal, and he is Malcolm, and I am Kenton. So if you guys have any questions, please drop them in the comments, or any suggestions on who we should talk to next. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, because we're trying to share this community and build this community so that we can improve, you know, the lives and really just the opportunities that Black and Brown youth have. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you in the next episode.
Nos vemos.